Good afternoon. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Aristotle. We don't just wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to be excellent today. It doesn't happen automatically. As one of my friends would say, if it were that easy, everyone would do it. Instead, excellence takes hard work and consistency over time. It takes laying a foundation and building on that foundation every day. I think that there are 3 primary ingredients that we need to have if we want to make excellence a habit: priorities, people, and passion. As someone in the audience said, we're back to the P's from this morning with Dara. We coordinated that. Let's start with priorities. We have to think about what we want to do. What is our goal? At what do we want to be excellent, whether personally or professionally? Once we make that decision, we need to plan and we need to invest. Investment substantially means time. If you read any of the Malcolm Gladwell books, you know that the studies that he engaged in showed that it takes 10,000 hours to achieve expert status. And I think for our purposes, we can equate expert with excellence. 10,000 hours. And you know what? We each only have 168 hours in every week. But as the author Laura Vanderkam has pointed out, not all of those hours are created equally. When she did her research into her books on success, what she found studying people across many disciplines in both their personal and professional lives is that those who were successful routinely used the morning hours effectively to advance their priorities, again, whether personal or professional. Why is it that using the morning can help us engage in a habit of excellence? The key word there is willpower. Ray Baumeister, who's a professor of psychology at Florida State University, said that willpower is like a muscle, and like a muscle, it can become fatigued. So that's why doing the hard things in the morning that takes self-discipline can help make us successful, to build that habit of excellence. Because we can focus our energies when other people are asleep or otherwise internally engaged. You don't have your cell phone ringing. You don't have people knocking on your door with crises. You don't have to go to the meeting. Let's think about our Olympians over in Sochi. They are magnificent, aren't they? And what do we hear time and time again from the television commentators? That those athletes were up every day at 4 or 5 in the morning at the practice rink, when the other people, again, were sleeping or otherwise engaged in their own self-improvement. They were out there perfecting their craft. I really do personally believe in the magic of a morning routine. I'm not naturally a morning person, but I've made myself a morning person because I figured out pretty quickly when I was in school, when I was practicing law, and when I was teaching, and now as dean, that those are the magic hours that I have to myself. Again, people are asleep. My phone is usually not buzzing off the hook unless there's snow in Lubbock. I don't have to be at meetings. There are not those external pressures and demands on my time. I moved to Lubbock 2.5 years ago. And right as I moved, I decided that I was going to make my physical health a priority. Some of you know this. Since I've moved here, I've actually lost about half of my body weight. Still working on it. I run into people from back in Florida or who I've known, and they're like, how did you do that? As if I have this magic formula, a pill, or a surgical procedure that I'm going to tell them they can go out and do. You know what? I don't have magic, but I do have an answer for them. You know what I did? I get up every morning at 4 a.m., regardless of where in the world I am, and I travel about 140 days a year for the law school. I travel around the world for the law school, so I've done this in Lithuania, and I've done this in Australia, and I've done this all over Texas and everywhere in between. I get up 4 and 5 in the morning and go run and hit the gym. I do that every day. I do it in the morning. Why? Because that is when my willpower is at its best. I've got that muscle. I can go do it. If I waited to the end of the day, the external pressures in my own mind chatter would say you don't have to do that. And you know what I found? Is that if you do something consistently every day, if you invest the time, your willpower, like muscle, grows. So I remember when it was really hard to lift a 30 or 40 pound barbell. Now I can do that. I can do that. I like to think of it as brushing your teeth. Okay, we get up and we do that every day. We don't think about it. If you do something, make it routine, make it a habit, it doesn't take that huge reservoir of energy that it did when you started. So do things every day, do them consistently, and take your priorities, whether it's your family, whether it's your job, whether it's something else, and focus on it in those morning hours. One more tip on priorities and time. And this is something I tend to see men do better than women. So I share my perspective on this. Again, we only have 168 hours in a week. We've got to go to our jobs, and we've got to sleep. We've got to do all of those other things that are necessary for us to live. So how do we get ahead? How do we become experts and excellent? One key there is leverage. Often we take on one project, we finish it, we put it down. We move to the next project, we pick it up, we put it down. The really smart people who become experts more quickly, they do that first project. I'm an academic, so bear with me. They write that academic paper and they send it into the journal. But instead of starting the next academic paper on the next topic, what do? They start accepting speaking invitations to academic groups on the topic of the first paper. Then they accept speaking invitations to practitioner groups. Then maybe they give an interview to the media or write an op-ed piece based on that article. And then maybe they take a section of that article and write a smaller piece for a different type of journal. And then that second article is a follow-up to the first piece. And they do it all over again. How many credentials did person 1 earn versus person 2 with the same amount of time? So morning hours and leverage are 2 tips I have under the P priority. Now let's talk about people. I know very few people who can achieve excellence as a silo. We're not made to be silos. Even the Olympic athletes who compete in individual events have had help. People who've coached them, people who train with them, people who are there cheering them on. If you want to make excellence a habit, I think you need to have 3 types of people surrounding you. First, we need mentors. We need to find the people who are already excellent at whatever we want to excel at. We need to figure out who they are, and we have to be proactive, be brave, and approach them. I wish it were different, but it's very rare for the more senior person to reach out to the more junior person. Maybe that will change over time. Maybe we as women can change that. But you have to be proactive. You have to find those people. I find that people are flattered to be asked. Once you find the mentor, though, you've got to use it. You've got to work it. What does that mean? You must seek feedback. And here's the hard part. When they give that feedback, you need to listen and you need to incorporate it. 2 examples here. I didn't do what I have achieved in terms of my weight loss alone. I have a friend who is a fantastic trainer. And she's good enough that she doesn't just say, here's your plan. work this plan. She's like, here are the parameters of your plan, and you need to fill in the details. So when I first started, I wasn't doing it all in the morning, was problem number one. And there were some other things I just wasn't getting. So I wrote and I said, hey, this isn't advancing like I thought it would be. And I got an email like this. Did I mention she used to be a drill sergeant? Oh. Julie Doss was with me when I got that email. She's saying, yeah, I remember this. It took me a week of reading and rereading that email. I had to take it a chunk of the time because it was not nice. I thought it wasn't nice, but you know what? It was actually completely full of love and support because she took the time on every point I had raised to write me back on it. And that's going to be my second example. So I had to really look inside and say, she's absolutely right about this. She's the expert. She's beyond where I'll ever get. I need to embrace her advice if I want to become excellent at going to the gym and working out and figuring out how this works with my health. And I did, but it was hard, and it's often hard. We often tend to avoid and recoil. Instead, we've got to lean into it. We've got to embrace it. The second example, again, I come from the world of legal writing. And what do we often do? Mark up those papers. Where do the students go? Oh my God, I'm a failure. This is horrible. And then they throw it down. They're like, oh, I'm not going to look at it. One of my colleagues said to a student who was sort of having that reaction to something he had given back is, you know what? I took a lot of time and a lot of thought to share my expertise with you. This was actually a very caring act. It wasn't mean. It appears to you at this moment to be mean, but it's not. So we have to find those mentors, those experts, seek them out, seek feedback, and then embrace that feedback. Second type of person we need is a person who will tell us no. Now, I'm not saying find a no person. Believe me, people who their first reaction to anything is, no, we can't do that. They drive me crazy. So we are not talking about that. I'm the dean of a law school. I have a lot of people who work with me, a lot of people who want things, a lot of people who want to agree with me and tell me, yes, that is the best idea they've ever heard. I am very wary of those people. The golden person is the person who will say, okay, I get your priority, and I hear your idea, and let's talk about that. But here's some issues on timing and implementation that maybe you've overlooked. It's a different P, that perspective P we heard this morning. So find those people who will be honest with you and will tell you the things that you think you don't want to hear, but you need to hear. The third type of person that you need to help you make excellence a habit is someone whose skills complement your skill set. We can't be excellent at everything. We often need multiple skill sets to exceed at whatever we're doing. I know there's some things that I'm both not good at and I hate to do. I'm one of those introverts, actually. And one thing I hate to do is talk on the phone. Oh my gosh, do not like talking on the phone. But I'm in a service industry. So what is one thing I look for in a great assistant? Someone who is great on the phone with people and who can get a lot of them off the phone. And then I only have to deal with a small percentage of those. I'm not a finance or an investment person, so I always look for someone who can do the money part of it. So again, you have to know yourself and look at not only your strengths, but your challenges, your weaknesses, and find someone to match them. So I think finding the mentors, finding the people who'll be honest with you, finding the people whose skill set complements you will allow you day in to day out, focus on what you're good at and make excellence a habit. The final P, passion. Do you know anyone who excels at something that they're not passionate about? Some people are competent at things, they're good at it. Is anyone really excellent at something that they can't give their heart and soul to, their time and commitment? I don't think so. This is a very challenging time for law schools and people going into the legal market. They're just not the number of traditional lawyer jobs that they used to be. And I'll hear students say, just give me a job. I'll take any job. And I always stop them and say, you don't want any job. I know you think you do, but you don't. Because if you take any job, you're not going to be happy. The people you're working with aren't going to be happy. Your clients aren't going to be happy. No one's going to be happy. You're not going to succeed. You're not looking for a job. You're looking for a fit. And what does that fit require? That fit requires you to know who you are, what your values are, what you're passionate about, and then it requires you to be completely authentic about all of that. Think about the people in your workplace who are really good at what they do, the excellent people, the people who love coming to work, the people who love the people they're working with, who love the projects that they're working on, the people who make it look like it's not work. Because to them it's not, it's their passion. They excel because they can commit to it because they're passionate about it. So priorities, set your priorities and invest the time it takes. And again, use those morning hours. I swear by it, even though I'd much rather be sleeping till 10. Surround yourself with the good people, with the Bonnies who will support you. And do things, invest in things that you are passionate about. Those are the ingredients for a good recipe to make excellence a habit. Thank you.